He sat there every Thursday. Same bench, same time, same stillness, not crying, not praying, just sitting. Facing a headstone no one else ever visited. Locals called him strange. Some thought he was a widower. Others whispered about ghosts. But one woman, new in town, called the sheriff. Said he was watching the graves too long. Said he gave her a bad feeling. Said, nobody just stares like that without a reason. The sheriff came, spoke to the man, left quiet. Didn't file a report, just said, that man's not crazy. He's keeping a promise someone else died to make. Thank you for being here. Sometimes the smallest moments carry the greatest meaning. Today's story is one of those, quiet, powerful, and worth remembering. If it touches something in you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like to walk with Elijah Boone again, subscribe. We'll hold your seat. Now let's take a closer look at what really happened. The cemetery wasn't large. No iron gates. No statues. Just rows of plain markers and short stone walls that leaned after too many winters. It sat on the edge of town, past the hardware store and the dried-out creek. Locals passed it without thinking, except on Thursdays, because every Thursday at 10 sharp. He was there, same man, same coat, same bench, didn't bring flowers. Didn't visit any specific grave, at least not that anyone could tell. He just sat, hands on his knees, eyes fixed on one corner of the field, still as the stones around him. No one really talked to him. Most assumed he was grieving. Some thought he was senile. One kid said he was practicing to be dead. But nobody bothered him, not until she moved in. Her name was Laura Kilner, 58, former nurse, widow. Moved from Michigan to live closer to her daughter. Bought a small white house 3 blocks from the cemetery. Every morning she walked past it with coffee in hand. She noticed the bench man on her second week. She noticed him again the next. And then every week. He never looked at her, but something about the way he sat bothered her. Too still, too focused. He wasn't lost in memory, he was watching, and Laura didn't like being watched, so she asked around. Who's that man at the cemetery every Thursday? Just a quiet vet, someone said, harmless. But no one could say where he lived, or what he wanted, just that he'd been coming for years. One Thursday, Laura changed her route. She crossed the field slowly, wound through the graves, stopped near the bench. He didn't flinch, didn't look, just kept his eyes ahead. Laura looked toward the same direction, 3 stones down, middle row, fresh cut grass in front. The headstone read, Tyler Joseph Kilner, CPL, U.S. Army, 1980-7-2009. He didn't hesitate. She blinked, heart caught in her throat, her son. She stepped closer. Excuse me, she said. The man didn't move. She repeated louder, do you know him? Still nothing. Then he said low, steady, yes. Laura's voice cracked, I'm his mother. The man turned slowly, nodded, didn't smile, didn't explain, just said, I know. She stared at him. I don't remember you at the funeral. I wasn't there, he said. Then why? He stood stiff, didn't reach for her, didn't flee. I come every Thursday. Why, she asked. Elijah Boone looked at her, eyes dark and calm. Because he asked me to. Laura's hands trembled. She wasn't a dramatic woman. She didn't cry easily. Not when she buried her husband. Not even when the uniformed officer handed her a folded flag and whispered, your son was a hero. But this, a strange man, at her son's grave, week after week, saying her boy had asked him to come, this rattled her. What do you mean he asked you? Elijah didn't move. His eyes returned to the headstone. Laura stepped closer. No one told me you were there. No one said your name, so how could he have asked you anything? He died in 2009. Elijah stood quiet, and that silence made it worse. Laura's voice rose. I think you need to tell me the truth, right now. A pause, then steady but heavy. Elijah said, we were in the same unit, Afghanistan. May 4th, 2009. Laura's breath caught. That was the date. The letter from the army had said May 4th. Elijah continued. Your son was point man for a foot patrol. Dust storm came in. He volunteered to take lead. He looked down. He didn't hesitate. Laura whispered, that's what the stone says. Elijah nodded. Because that's what I told them. Silence. Elijah slowly sat back down on the bench. Laura stayed standing. I didn't know, she said, voice quieter now, still guarded, still wounded. But that doesn't answer the question. Why here? Why every Thursday? Elijah looked up at the sky, didn't answer right away. Then, because I made him a promise. Laura froze. What promise? Elijah's hands opened slightly. Not a gesture, almost like he was letting something go. He asked me to make sure someone remembered him as a person, not just a soldier. He exhaled. So I come here, I sit. I remember the jokes he told, how he hated raisins in cookies, how he whistled through his teeth when he concentrated. His eyes softened. And how the night before that mission, he asked me what I missed most. Laura stared. What did you say? Elijah gave a faint smile. Chairs. I missed sitting, not in tents, not in sand, just benches, real ones under trees with nothing to do. He looked down at the bench. So he said, when I'm gone, Sergeant, promise me you'll find a bench and sit for both of us, wherever I end up. Laura's eyes filled. Elijah nodded at the grave. I figured this one was closest. She sat beside him, slowly. No more yelling, no more suspicion, just silence. The right kind, shared. They sat in silence, two people, one alive with loss, one living under the weight of a promise. The wind moved the grass. A crow crossed overhead, but neither of them blinked. Laura's hands were clasped, knuckles white. Finally she asked, did he suffer? Elijah didn't flinch. He knew that question. He knew the layers in it, and the danger of answering wrong. He didn't know, Elijah said softly. It was quick. No pain. She looked away, eyes blinking hard. That's what the army said too. Pause, but I never believed them. Elijah looked at the headstone. I was there. I made sure he didn't die alone. He paused. He called your name. Laura gasped. Her fingers moved to her mouth. Elijah's voice didn't shake, but something in his throat shifted. Not Mom. Not ma'am. He said Laura. Like he knew you were more than just his mother. You were his person. Laura wept silently. No sound, just tears that slipped through 40 layers of held-together composure. I always wondered if he was afraid, she said. He wasn't, Elijah answered. I was, but not him. They sat a while longer, then she asked, why didn't you tell me? He answered, because I didn't think I had the right. She looked at him sharply. You're the only one who does. Elijah leaned forward. I failed him, Laura. I was his squad leader. He was in my patrol. Pause. I let him take point. I should have gone first. She shook her head. No, you let him be who he was. A leaf fell between them, landing gently on the bench. She picked it up, looked at it, then said, you know what hurt the most? When he died, I had no new stories, only what he was like before he left. Elijah nodded. He liked terrible coffee. He sang Sweet Caroline out of tune every Wednesday, and he couldn't cook rice without setting off the fire alarm. Laura laughed, once, short and raw. That's him, she said. Elijah looked at her. I can tell you more, but only if you want. She smiled through tears. I do. It was the night before the patrol, nothing special. Just another desert evening with heat in the dust and silence hanging over the tents. Elijah remembered the smell of cheap coffee and burned rice, because Tyler had tried to cook again, and failed. Why do you keep doing this? Elijah had asked, swatting at the scorched mess. Tyler just grinned. One day, he said, when I make someone breakfast and don't burn it, I'll know I'm ready to get married. They laughed, not loudly, not long. Just the kind of laugh you keep in your chest so it doesn't spill out and break the quiet. That night, they sat on crates outside the barracks. Tyler talked about home, about his mom, about Michigan. He said he missed the sound of leaves in October. Elijah didn't say much, but he listened. He always listened. Tyler pulled out a small notebook, scribbled something, then folded it up and tucked it into his boot. You write letters a lot? Elijah asked. Tyler shrugged. I write what I don't want to forget. The next morning was routine. Gear check, formation, briefing, 6 men in the squad, Elijah as team lead. Tyler insisted on point. Elijah hesitated. You sure? Yeah, Tyler said. I know this path, I'll walk it better. Elijah nodded. Didn't argue, didn't stop him. And that choice, that split-second nod, would live in Elijah's ribs for the rest of his life. The blast was instant. Flash. Heat. Silence. Tyler was thrown not far, but far enough. Elijah crawled to him. His leg was torn, dust in his mouth. He pulled Tyler into his lap. Blood. Tyler's eyes opened once. "Sergeant." "I'm here," Elijah said. Tyler looked straight at him. "Don't forget." His voice was cracked, but clear. Then softer, "Tell her I laughed right before it happened." Elijah swallowed. "I will." Tyler blinked once, then nothing. Elijah sat there until the medevac came. He wouldn't let them cover the body. Not yet. Not until someone looked Tyler in the face and knew this was a man who smiled through fear. Back at base, Elijah found the boot. Inside, a folded note. No address, just words. "If this ever gets found, tell my mom not to keep my room the same. She should live in it. Fill it with noise again." Elijah never sent the note. Didn't know how, didn't know if he was allowed. So instead, he sat on a bench. Every Thursday, so at least one part of Tyler's wish could come true. Back in the present. Laura wiped her eyes. "He never told me he was writing." Elijah smiled gently. "He was afraid you'd correct his grammar." Laura laughed short and sweet. "That's true." They sat quietly. Two people, one story, finally told right. It was Thursday, again. The air had cooled. Leaves began to shift from green to rust. Crows overhead had thinned but still circled now and then like they too had a reason to return. Laura arrived first. She carried nothing. No flowers, no notebook, no framed photo, just herself. And that was enough. She sat on the bench, crossed her hands, breathed. 5 minutes later, Elijah walked up the path. No surprise in his step, no hesitation. He nodded at her. She nodded back. He sat down beside her, not too close. They didn't speak right away. Didn't need to. In front of them was the same stone, same name, same words. He didn't hesitate. Laura stared ahead. "Last night I made rice," she said. Elijah glanced sideways, burned it. She smiled, "Yes." They sat a while longer. Then Laura reached into her coat, pulled out a folded piece of paper, Tyler's note. She handed it to Elijah. "I found this on my porch, wrapped in plastic, no name, just waiting." Elijah didn't deny it, didn't need to. She added softly, "I filled his room, put in my art table, hung his jacket on the chair." Pause, there's noise again. A breeze moved between them. Neither turned. Laura finally asked, "Do you still blame yourself?" Elijah exhaled. "Some days." She nodded slowly. "Then sit beside me until those days pass." They stayed until noon. Didn't speak more than a handful of words, but when they left together, not arm in arm, just side by side. Which sometimes is the closest thing to healing. Some graves hold the past, some hold promises. The living don't come to mourn what was lost, they come to remember what was given. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you sit beside someone who understands the difference. If this story sat with you, if you've ever carried a memory too heavy for one person alone, tell us. There's space on the bench. And if you'd like to walk beside Elijah Boone again, you're welcome here. Subscribe. We'll meet you on the next Thursday.